So I think the goal of this presentation is to give a high-level overview of what we found to be most successful for a Google Apps deployment in the K-12 setting. And with that said, what we're usually seeing is it's a very large deployment. In comparison to most of our business deployments, they're big. So, I mean, just to give a background on some of our business deployments, our normal use case is 50 users or less. For a school, that's incredibly small. For most schools, we're looking at 1,000 at maybe the smaller end, up to 50,000, 100,000. I'm working with the state of New York right now, so that's in the millions. So our deployments in K-12 are by far the largest that we're seeing in the United States, so they have some unique challenges. But at the same time, I think that there are some things that make them easier. So my goal here is to give the sort of 5 basic steps to plan out the deployments, make sure that deployment goes smoothly, and then make sure you guys are up and running. And the 5 things that I think are always good to be thinking about when you're planning your deployments are the organizational layout. So what I mean by that is how your users are organized, what organizations they live in, what groups they're in, and what domain names they have. And we'll go into a bit more detail over each of these in a moment. The second thing is mail flow. So a lot of schools do choose to use Google Apps for their mail, and when that comes into play, there's a lot of options. You can either send the mail directly to Google, we'll handle it, we'll take care of the spam and everything. Alternatively, if you have some sort of legacy server on site that you'd like to interop with, then we can do that as well. And then lastly, if you want to put some sort of intermediate scanning server in the middle, so something like Postini or Barracuda, that is definitely an option as well. So I think the theme with Mailflow is going to be that it's flexible. It's just a matter of plumbing everything in the right spots. So as we're moving down, the provisioning comes next. And user provisioning really just means getting your users into Google. And we have a few different ways to do that. And really, the decision is usually how many users you have. So if it's a small school, let's say, I don't know, 100 users are going to be using it or less, then by all means, just add them one at a time. But as it gets larger, you'll want to consider using something more automated or bulk. So we'll look at some of those larger scale options. Next will be data migration. So with data migration, it can be as easy as just migrating nothing, or all the way up to running some server-side tools that will pull over your contacts, your calendar, and all the other email data. And then last thing I'd like to talk about is authentication. So authentication is you have all your user accounts there, they have their data, but how are they going to be accessing them? So those are sort of the overview of this presentation. I'm hoping this should take about 40 minutes. Once we get that up and running, then we will hopefully jump to some questions, because I think that's usually the most useful part of this. And also, by any means, as we're moving, feel free to interrupt, ask some questions about what you have going on your own site, because I think those can be some of the most useful questions.